This was Hunter Greene's first big moment in the playoffs, and it's clear the lights were just too bright.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. We've been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons. We love talking baseball. We love talking Reds baseball, and we love talking about those things with you. On today's show, a little bit later, I am going to tell you why I think it is absolute go all in time for the Cincinnati Reds as they face elimination from the postseason. And I'm going to tell you what that looks like. We'll see if Jeff agrees with me or not. That's a little bit later. Also, Jeff thinks he saw a glimmer of hope. We're going to get into that here in just a few minutes. But where we're going to start is the start from Hunter Greene back in his hometown in Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium, making his playoff debut. And it seems like the lights were, in fact, just a little too bright. We're going to talk about all of that on today's show, brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Jeff. Well, that didn't go according to plan. Hunter Greene was, I feel like, the Reds' best chance at stealing a win in Dodger Stadium to start this series. And it was clear pretty early that Hunter didn't really have his best stuff. And this was not going to be one of those starts we talked about for years to come.
No, and it was clear that leading into this ball game, it felt like there were a lot of things that were pointing to how special and how large this game loomed in his mind. And, you know, all due respect to all of that, I think it all came to a head on Tuesday night, where it was like, oh, all of these different things, and this is so amazing. Oh, and here's Shohei Ohtani, and I need to throw him strikes, but I can't throw him that strike. Oh, there it goes. It's gone. All right. And it was quickly out of hand from there. Like, you could tell from that point on, Hunter's adrenaline level was too high. He was overthrowing everything. When he did locate some pitches here and there, we saw that Hunter Greene that we saw this year. But for the most part, Steve, he really dialed the clock back to a point when he was a rookie, and it was like, man, he's got electric stuff, but he's not controlling it really well.
Yeah, 3 home runs in 3 innings. It gives him a playoff ERA of 15, if anybody's keeping track of that. 5 runs, 6 hits, all of them earned, Jeff. A couple free passes. Clearly not ace Hunter Greene stuff. You're right. It looked much more like rookie Hunter Greene, where the potential is there. We could see where he's going, but he wasn't quite living up to it. Look, I listened to Tim Daniel on the postcast last night, and Tim kind of adopted the stance of, he's not going to say bad things about Hunter Greene based on this start. I'm not either, but also I'm going to call it like it is. I think the moment got just a little too big for him in his playoff debut. Maybe we did that thing we did with him early in his career where we put too much pressure on this and we hyped it too much of what we expected from Hunter Greene.
I don't think we put too much pressure on him. We know what to expect from Hunter Greene at this point. It's just, this was a new situation. So, I mean, maybe you could make that argument, but I would still, knowing what I know, I would still make these expectations. He missed the expectations. I think the tough part is you come into this series as the Reds, and absolutely everyone says, great job. We'll see you next year after Wednesday. And I think that they played into that as much as I thought they were going to be, they were going to make sure that the story was different. The narrative was different. They were playing with house money, and boy, this was going to be fun. As soon as the house handed in that money, they handed it all right back in the first 5 innings. I mean, this game was over at the end, really at the end of the 5th, but they add a couple for good measure there at the end of the 6th. And you're just like, geez, at this point, where are we going with this? And they get a couple of runs back in the 7th, but then Noelvi Marte hands them back a few more in the bottom of the 7th. And then at that point, it was just like, man, they can't even mount a comeback. Like they start a comeback and then they give up more runs. It felt like all around there were performances here and there and everywhere. And then Connor Phillips, he came in and he gave up a couple of dingers, very uncharacteristic of him. There were just a couple of guys where it was just like, this is their first playoff experience. And boy, did they look green.
Yeah. I didn't expect Hunter Greene to be perfect, Jeff. There's a reason that the Dodgers won 93 games. There's a reason that they won their division. Their lineup, there's 6 players in their everyday lineup with 3.5 or more in WAR, with the most of that being Shohei Ohtani at 6.6. They have a lot of dudes on this team. They're going to score some runs. I think you hit the nail on the head, though, in that Hunter Greene didn't do what got him here. In this start, he fell into that old place, that old habit, which is probably like his safe space, so to speak, of doing what he did back in the day, right? There is a large portion of Hunter Greene's career where all he had to do was go set foot on the mound and blow the baseball by people. A large portion of his baseball life has been spent doing that. Only in the last couple years has he evolved into the pitcher. And I think he fell back on those habits. I think the moment got to him and he reverted to that thing that he used to do when he needed to have success, which was just try to blow it by somebody, try to just single-handedly beat the dude in the batter's box. And I think that ultimately is what got him.
And he learned he couldn't do that very quickly as Shohei Ohtani. They kept showing that replay, Steve, there on the ESPN broadcast. And like they basically showed that Shohei saw that pitch in slow motion. Like when the fastball was coming in at 100, I think it was at 100.4 is what they said it was. He was so on time with it that he was just like, it wasn't even like
I think that ball had 117 exit velocity. Is that right? 117.
And it didn't look like Shohei was sped up. Like it looked like Shohei was just normally swinging at that. It was a very controlled, smooth swing from him. And I think at that point, Hunter was like, oh boy, here we go. Because he could not throw his splitter. Every time he threw his splitter, he spiked it into the ground. And then whenever he threw his slider, it wasn't fooling anybody. And so he had to set that up with his fastball, but his command was a little bit off. So anything that was on the black last week was over the plate and fat today or last night.
What do you make of that spiking like that? Was that adrenaline?
Adrenaline.
Was he overthrowing just too much juice?
Yes. Yeah, because you could see he was overthrowing his fastball. He was overthrowing his slide. He was overthrowing everything. And that's why Terry Francona brought him out of the game. Like, I mean, obviously you give up 4 runs in the 3rd inning. It's time to go. But at the same time, like even before that point, like Jeff Brantley was saying on the radio broadcast, boy, it looks like you got to get him out of here. I know the Reds were counting on him to throw a lot more in this game, but he is not helping you, and you've got to get him out of here. And that's just really where everything sort of went haywire. Like for the first 5 innings, Steve, I was just like, boy, this is what we waited for. This is what we waited 5 years for. And they hadn't scored at that point either. And then thankfully they were able to put some things together toward the end of the ball game. And it's that, and it's one other reason that I feel some sort of way about tonight. And you're going to have to bear with me because I believe the Reds will win tonight. And I'll tell you why coming up next. If you're looking to head down to your next event, then Game Time is the answer. Whether you're traveling to Los Angeles for the other wild card game, hopefully the other 2 wild card games, or if you're looking at Bengals games, Bearcats games, Buckeyes games, they're all on Game Time. They've got great last-minute deals with the lowest prices for your tickets to your event. They've even got concerts. They've got comedy events. They've got theater events down at the Aronoff. All that great stuff can be found on Game Time. And they make it so easy to buy your tickets, especially when you're going to sporting events. Like if you travel out the Chavez Ravine, they will show you your view from your seat, so you know exactly what you're getting into. They make the ticket buying process easy. That's Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. For $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And you need to start financially thriving with Monarch Money, because Monarch Money has helped me out. It'll definitely help you out when it comes to monitoring your spending, when it comes to seeing all of your accounts on one screen. Seriously, debit accounts, credit accounts, investment accounts, all on one screen, one login, boom. You monitor your entire financial picture for you. Plus, they make it easy to manage your finances with a partner. Y'all can see the same thing. You can plan accordingly. There's no more awkward conversations of this, that, and the other. Monarch Money makes finances easier for you to monitor and for you to grow. You got to check out Monarch Money today. Go to monarchmoney.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll save 50% off your first year. Like I said, Monarch Money really helped me financially thrive. It will help you too. monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you've not done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Become an everydayer. We'll be with you all throughout the rest of this postseason run. We'll be into the offseason and getting you set for a 2026 to remember right here on Locked On Reds. Plus, when you subscribe, you also get Tim Daniel and the Reds postcast live at the end of every Reds ball game. We got you covered all year long. All right, Steve, I know I was kind of laughed out of the crossover with Harry and the Locked On Dodgers whenever I said that the Reds would win this in 3. And I still feel that way because I saw a glimmer of hope there at the end of the ball game. As much as we talked about the first 5 innings and how bad they were, it was the last 4 innings that gave me hope, because it was easy at that point for this team to stop. It was easy at that point for this team to pack it up, ain't scoring anymore. Let's just get on the plane and go home tonight. But they scored a couple there in the 6th, and then they scored a bunch there in the 8th. And part of that, I understand, was just the Dodgers bullpen and not locating pitches in the strike zone and things like that. But there was an adjustment that was made. The Reds lineup was super aggressive early on in this ballgame, and I think they knew that Blake Snell was going to be just absolutely trying to fill up the strike zone, which he was. There was not like an opportunity for the Reds to just leave their bats on their shoulders and force them to throw more pitches. What would have happened was they would have went down 0-2 about every guy that stepped up to the plate, and then they're down 0-2, and you got to do something with that. But later on in the ball game, as he got a little bit more tired, as he gave up a run, as he gave up some hits, he started to lose his command. And then they're like, okay, let's get into the bullpen here. That is when the Reds went. I think they're going to put the pressure on Yamamoto here in his start. They're going to force him to throw a lot of pitches. They're going to get into that Dodgers bullpen even earlier in this game tonight, and they're going to win.
Okay, a couple things. First off, I was happy to see them finally score some runs in the 7th, because that broke the 28 consecutive scoreless innings that this team was riding in postseason play. So luckily, they finally broke through and scored some runs. Look, I want so badly to share your excitement, Jeff. I want to believe that the Reds can get at Yamamoto, but just for a second. 173 2/3 innings in 30 starts for the Dodgers this year. Yamamoto sporting a 2.49 ERA. And he, in a division that had a few good teams that could score some runs. He's played some guys. His FIP says that he's still at the under 3 guy, 2.94.
He's getting lucky.
Strikeouts per 9. I'm not even going to fall into that. Strikeouts per 9, 10.4. Walks per 9, 3.1. This guy's really, really, really good. And the only thing I can say that maybe the lineup will go a little bit better is the fact that you may get Gavin Lux in there, who has been kind of on a bit of a good run lately. I hope that we see Sal Stewart in this game. We're going to see Will Benson in this game. Hopefully one of those guys brings the fire. A glimmer of hope. Hope is the right word. And it seems fitting that as we go into what could be the final game of the 2025 season for the Reds, that we're riding the hope as the strategy, because it's the horse that brought us here. We might as well lean into it.
It is. And I think there's something else to the fact that whoever it is, and I know we're going to really dive into this, so I don't want to say who it should be right now, but whoever it is between the candidates, possible starting pitchers for the Reds tonight, they're all very breaking ball heavy. They're all not necessarily the guys that are going to rear back and throw a bunch of fastballs and all that other stuff. That is where the Dodgers made their hay yesterday. And I felt like some of the dudes that were really teeing off, Teoscar Hernandez, and even Shohei Ohtani. I mean, Shohei Ohtani, yeah, he had the two homers, but he had 3 strikeouts. So there were some pitches that were getting in on them, and I feel like they've got the scouting reports and they're ready to go with this. I think they're going to be throwing a lot more breaking balls tonight. Whoever it is that's going to be on the mound for the Reds, they've got their marching orders. They're going to pitch them better. I don't foresee the Dodgers going crazy in the run department right now. Like the over-under right now, and our friends over at FanDuel have the over-under set at 8. I think it might go over, but I think it's 9 is the total. I think Reds win 5-4.
Okay. I for all the reasons that Jeff, I don't know. I listen, I want them to win this game. I want there to be a game 3. I really feel like that their best shot at going on that trajectory of stealing the series was with Hunter Greene on the mound. I just don't know. I try to find the hope in this lineup. The only little bit of it I can lean into is that I don't think they put their best offensive lineup on the field tonight, last night rather. There was much better ways. We talked about this leading into the series, right? That you could go defense, run prevention, or you could go try and maximize what you can score. Clearly, it doesn't matter how good Brian Hayes is at third base. If Shohei Ohtani's got 117 miles per hour exit velocity going into the night there at Dodger Stadium. So play Sal Stewart. I just play Sal Stewart. Play him. Get him in the lineup. Will Benson for a little bit of power. Get him in the lineup. It's just what has to be done.
Let's definitely hash that out a little bit more here in just a few minutes, but there's one other analytic that I want to drop on the glimmer of hope. In a good way. I want to add it to the glimmer of hope, and that is the fact that since they began the wild card series, the 3-game wild card series in 2022, if a team wins game 1, they win the series every time. In fact, I think it's 18 out of 20 of them have been 2-game sweeps. So literally, the whole cockroach mentality can't kill us. It's working for the Reds right now because they're literally saying they cannot do it. No one ever has, and everything's against them.
And the other piece of that, too, is that it would be for them to have to win the next 2 is the most frustrating way they could win the wild card round. They go out there and get pummeled in game 1 and turn right around. So there's lots of things that are on brand about this. There's lots of things that are just, they are the Reds. The Reds are going to red. We've talked about that. Like this is the thing. And that's how it could be, Jeff. But look, I'm going to allow a little extra time heading into the next segment because I believe that the Cincinnati Reds need to go all in. And there's a certain way that needs to look. So I'm going to give you my version of how the Reds should go all in coming up next.
Well, the Reds got their backs against the wall. We're in a must-win situation right here. And FanDuel doesn't like it. FanDuel does not think that they're going to win today. In fact, the odds on the money line for the Reds to win tonight is plus 205. So you're telling me there's a chance. But there's something about this Reds ball club when it comes to having their backs against the wall. That seems to be when they play the best. So I think I'm taking that money line plus 205 over on FanDuel. And at least as of right now, here in the wee morning hours of Wednesday morning, the over-under is set at 8 total runs. You got to check out FanDuel today. Download that FanDuel app, and brand new users can place a $5 wager. And if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bet. Download that FanDuel app today.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, we are in every single audio podcasting feed that's out there, I think. If you find when we're not on and you need us to be on it, message Jeff. He will get us there. All right, Jeff, let's kind of dive into this because this is it. It's elimination for real. We've been talking for weeks now about this is kind of an elimination game. It's kind of an elimination game. Today is an elimination game.
Last game of the year. Can't hold anything back now.
Nope. You have to take all of your chips and you have to push them to the center of the table right now if you're Terry Francona. And I want to start with what that looks like from a pitching standpoint, because previously announced that Zach Littell was going to go in game 2 for the Reds with Andrew Abbott going in game 3. It's absolutely absurd to me that in this game 2 elimination game, you would have Andrew Abbott sitting there twiddling his thumbs. That cannot be allowed to stand. They have
There's no such thing as game 3. No such thing as game 3.
They have to start Andrew Abbott in this game. Also available to you out of the bullpen today is Nick Lodolo. So my plan for this game is Andrew Abbott as much as he can give you, followed by Nick Lodolo as much as he can give you, and maybe that gets you to Santillan Pagan. And that is your pitching lineup for this game. And then if you get to game 3, hang on, because if you get to game 3, I'm starting Chase Burns. I'm following him with Nick Martinez, and then anybody else that's got life left in their arm that's not in the B group pitches in the game. That's how I manage the pitching staff over the next 2 days.
I can see that. So with that in mind, I think I would amend it just a little bit, because I like the idea of piggybacking Chase Burns with Andrew Abbott. You go lefty with the breaking stuff and the nice changeup to righty that's going to blow you away in a crazy slider. And as much as we just talked about blowing you away kind of being a tough thing to really try to do to the Dodgers lineup when they're already, used to the changeup and the breaking ball and all that stuff that Andrew Abbott's going to throw their way, then you give them that change of pace. And then if you get to game 3, which quite frankly, I like this idea of the go all in tonight, because honestly, if you don't go all in tonight, then there ain't going to be another game. And so there is no more other game. But if we get to that point, then you could do some version of Nick Lodolo, Zach Littell at that point. Go lefty, righty. I like the lefty, righty thing because it messes with their lineup. We saw whenever the Reds brought in Brent Suter, there were some changes that the Dodgers made because the Dodgers played the matchups. We always talk about, people that want to push back on platoons and all this other stuff. Like the Dodgers are the main team that does this. And so if you can force Dave Roberts to be like, all right, am I going to start my right-handed heavy lineup? Then Chase Burns comes in, and then I got to bring in my lefties, and then you're going to bring in another lefty or something like that. And maybe that's the other thing, is that you go lefty, righty, lefty, and Andrew Abbott, Chase Burns, Nick Lodolo. But whatever it is, you can then sort of have some sort of Frankenstein game 3. It kind of feels like announcing that Zach Littell is going to start game 2, that you're making the Frankenstein game 2. And we can't do that now because the Reds didn't win game 1.
No, there's some wisdom to what you're saying about going to Chase Burns in game 2, but I really feel like, I made reference earlier to the horse that got you here, right? Andrew Abbott leads this team in WAR at 5.6. He's the guy that should start this game. The number 2 guy in WAR on this team is Nick Lodolo at 4.9. That's
true.
There's no guarantee of a game 3. I'm running those 2 dudes out there, and we'll figure out the rest later. I don't know. There's a little wisdom to making Dave Roberts make moves. I get it. Maybe if I will have a few minutes to think about that, maybe I would amend this. But
it means Max Muncy's not in the lineup because he can't hit lefties.
Right. So
that's a nice, the lefty. If you stay lefty, then Max Muncy just doesn't play.
You know what? I think I'm sticking with where I started with this. I want to go Abbott, Lodolo, and maybe those are the only 2 guys that pitch. Maybe those are the only 2 guys that pitch game 2. If Abbott gives you 5 and Lodolo gives you 4, we're out of here. We get a win. And now you've got a really rested bullpen to go in game 3 to Frankenstein it with Chase Burns leading the way, followed by Martinez and Pagan and Santillan and everybody else. But you got to win game 2. So I'm running the 2 big WAR guys out there. I'm going to stand by that. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How do you go all in with the lineup? what does that look like? Because I think that there's a couple things. Shout out to Tim Daniel. I want to start with something he mentioned. Tyler Stevenson has to be the starting catcher in game 2.
There's no more 50-50 with him and Trevino, because Trevino can't hit. We know this. It's proven. Tyler Stevenson's got to play. Will Benson's got to play. Sal Stewart's got to play. We're going power for power here, and I get it. There is no chance that the Reds can match power for power with the Dodgers, but what they hope is the pitching lineup that they put on the mound, the Reds, shuts down as much of the power as they can from the Dodgers side, and then all of the power that the Reds push forward in their lineup gets going, because they can't do this run prevention over run production thing.
How would you feel about this lineup? And again, it's going to be a right-hander going, correct? So if they go TJ Friedel, Gavin Lux, Ellie De La Cruz, move him back up already.
Surprised they didn't do that for game 1, but yes, I agree.
Then go Noelvi Marte. Then go Tyler Stevenson, Spencer Steer. I guess it's the 7. Sal Stewart, 8. Matt McLean, 9.
Do it.
That should be the line. Or I didn't even have Will Benson in there, right?
Oh, I thought you did. Sorry.
I think I missed Benson, but sub him in. Sorry. But basically what I just did there was I kind of put all of the high on base percentage people against left-handed pitching.
Mm-hmm. Or right.
I'm sorry, against right-handed pitching. And just run it from whoever's got the highest on base percentage. Just run it that way and try and score some runs. I don't know.
Well, and it's most likely that the Reds, if they face a lefty, it's going to be for like an inning at most, because when you go down and look, like Emmett Sheehan was warming up in the bullpen there for the Dodgers toward the end of the 8th inning, and then they actually got out of the jam. But Emmett Sheehan would be the guy that comes in after Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and both of those guys, Yamamoto and Sheehan, are both right-handed. So if that is the plan, and maybe they sandwich in a left-handed reliever in there for like 1 inning, you could conceivably just grin and bear it with whoever it is that's up at the plate at that point, and then they bring in Sheehan, and then you still got your lefty strong lineup against right-handed pitching, because this is the strength of this lineup as much as there can be, and just keep going with that. I think I'm done with the 2025 experiment of run prevention over run production at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers average 5.5 runs, Steve. You're not going to hold them to 2. You might hold them to 3, possibly to 4, but you're not holding them to 1 or 2 runs at home. It just doesn't happen. I think they got shut out like once, and I think they probably had a handful of games where they scored 1 run. But for the most part, this team scores a lot at home, and so you got to run with them. If they're going to run a race, then you can't walk that race. And it seemed like they tried to walk that race in game 1.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we all kind of know what needs to happen. The question is, does Terry Francona know what needs to happen? This is not your regular old baseball game, and I really want to not get swept. So I need the Reds to go all in. I need the Reds to push those ships to the middle of the table, and we'll figure out Thursday on Thursday. And on that note, Jeff, let's let everybody get some rest, get charged up. Game is once again a 9:08 start tonight, folks. So sip some coffee. Be ready. This one's going to go late. Hopefully we're celebrating a Reds win. We will be back in your feeds tomorrow, win or lose, to talk about game 2 of the wild card round as the Cincinnati Reds take on the Los Angeles Dodgers at Chavez Ravine Dodger Stadium. We're going to keep gathering up the news, the notes, the reports, the rumors, the information. We're going to bring it all right back here to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
What do you think? I asked folks on Twitter who's going to be more surprised by the ABS challenge system, umpires or the fans at Dodger Stadium. What's your answer to that?
The fans at Dodger Stadium.
100%.